everybody. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Stellar Schaller. And can you hear us?
Yes, hello there.
Hi. Would you also be able to share your thing? Oh, brilliant. You can present your presentation.
Beautiful. Warm welcome to everyone. I'm glad to be invited at this conference. My name is Stella, and today I would like to introduce to you the mindset of regeneration and present to you some possible positive narratives where we could take our societies. And basically, regeneration is the only thing that I think can save our ass in times of crises and collapse. And yeah, I also want to strengthen your inner compass. So it's very useful in these times of turbulence and crisis to have an inner vision of where we could end up, like a positive orienting star at the horizon. And I want to present to you some examples of our work, things that we developed in the context of urban spaces. This is our team. I founded a startup a couple of years ago that's called Reinventing Society. And we were founded in the Corona pandemic when people were really stuck in a problem mindset, where we were all so narrowed and also locked down. And we wanted to provide people with positive narratives, what we want to build after all the structures were kind of interrupted through the crisis. And we developed methods for workshops, for training our imagination. We produced a book that's called Zukunftsbilder, which is a narrative of a positive future. And we worked with a lot of cities and municipalities on creating positive visions. So this is one of the images, for example, of Berlin. And here you can also see the quote that's kind of representative of our approach, which says that another world is not only possible, but she's already on her way. And on a quiet day, I can hear her breathing. So what I want to convey to you and what our work is about is that it's really useful and important to connect with our hearts to a more beautiful future, to the more beautiful world our heart knows is possible. And currently, the world doesn't really look like that. We all know that we are in a really critical moment in Earth's history. Our actions are super meaningful right now. We hear about the climate catastrophes every day. We have wildfires across the planet. We are facing ecosystems collapse, floods, rising sea levels, and all of that. So we are really in a very urgent planetary emergency. And many of you might have heard the term Anthropocene, which means that we are entering a really new geological age where we have an irreversible impact on the planet. So we can really say that it's crunch time now, and our actions today matter. Every decision we make matters. Every little thing we change now impacts on our future. And the IPCC, the International Panel on Climate Change, also said that in its report, it said that the choices and actions implemented in this decade will have impacts for now and for thousands of years. So your choices, as you are gathering for this conference, they really matter. The things you touch in your life, at your workplace, in your private life, they matter. And it's now time to take good decisions. Some of you might also have seen this graph, which shows that we're really moving into uncharted territory. We're like moving into an uninhabitable zone with our planet, with all the resource use increasing, the temperatures increasing, CO2 increasing, the forest degradation increasing, species declining, etc., etc. And although we're trying globally, we have so many efforts, we're not really like changing the trend because we're not on a trajectory of regeneration. And many people, when we look at this image and at this convolution of crisis, they feel desperate. And I also sometimes feel really desperate and sad and helpless and even afraid of the consequences. And it's important to actually face these emotions and turn them into action. It's important to allow these emotions and then still bring them into action. But one of the problems that we have collectively is that our narratives are also really negative, that we usually focus on the problems and on the crises and the things we can resolve instead of on the solutions that we all have and the possibilities and real utopias that are already piloted in many places in the world. When we look at the crisis that we're having, it's really a multi-crisis. Some people also call it polycrisis or omni-crisis. And you see that in this multi-crisis, many individual separate crises are interlinked. Say, geopolitical instability is impacted by resource scarcity, and that in turn is impacted by water scarcity. And resource scarcity leads to unsustainable food patterns, which then impacts on geopolitical instability. So we really have this interlinked crises. And it's very important that we can't single out single crises, but that they're all interlinked. And oftentimes we want to resolve one crisis, say pollution, and then we start cleaning up the ocean. Whereas the bigger underlying issue and the problem is really that we have things that give rise to all these crises, which is, for instance, an economic system that's based on growth and on profit and separation instead of cooperation and connectedness. And when we look even deeper, when we go even deeper and look at the things that give rise to this crisis, we find that it's our mindset, our worldview, our identity even. We think that we're separate from nature and we want to like secure what's ours. It's an ego mindset, which is based on oftentimes on greed and on feeling of being separate rather than this notion of interbeing that the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh once coined. Interbeing, we are because other beings are. We are because our biosphere is providing us with the resources that we need. So when we go deeper, we discover that actually there aren't so many root causes, but the root cause is really our culture of separation. And we often feel also separate from ourselves and from nature. So it's worth really going a bit deeper and not just focusing on the symptoms, but really looking at the things that give rise to all of the other crises. And the move that we need to make, or the shift, is really this paradigm shift from ego to eco, which you can see here in this little chart, and moving from this mindset of it's all about me to a systemic mindset of it's all about us, where we see that there are so many systemic interlinkages, that everything's influencing each other. And if we want to have a bit more academic chart, we can use this one on regeneration and regenerative cultures. And you see here that there is a movement from a degenerative development to a regenerative development that we need to undertake. We need to shift from, say, conventional agriculture to regenerative agriculture. And you also see that the SDGs, which are a symbol for a sustainable development, they are in the center, which means they are neutral in a way. So they don't do harm. Also, the word sustain means to sustain something that we have. But in times where our oceans are polluted, the atmosphere is polluted, the soils are degraded, it's no longer enough just to do no harm. We actually need to regenerate, and we need to heal and build up resources again. So that's why regenerative development goes farther and is deeper than just sustainability. And it focuses, for example, on taking nature as inspiration. Let's look how nature was sustainable for trillions of years. Nature is sustainable because it works in regenerative cycles, where everything is circular and where the output or the waste of one species, say, is the input for another, and where it's the constant regeneration and circular flow. As compared to humans, we are mostly in a linear flow. We take things from nature, produce something from it, and then throw it away into waste. And it can't be reused oftentimes. So regeneration really means to use nature as inspiration for the design, use nature-based design principles, and see everything as interlinked. And yeah, in this chart or this slide, you can also see a few other paradigms that underpin this shift, where we have to move from competition-based economies to cooperation-based economies. So yeah, we also need to move from a growth-based economy to a common good economy, for example. And there are some indicators that enable that. Say the common good product enables us to measure the common good rather than just financial growth, and as we do with the GDP. And yeah, we also need to move from separation to connection. I said that, and from this mindset of extracting and taking from nature or from people to regenerating, giving back to the planet, building up resources in nature, but also human resources. And adopting this mindset that we need to regenerate ourselves to be sustainable. And currently we're not. We're all stressed, burned out. And same with the planet. So it's a real mindset shift. And this shift needs to happen in basically all of the sectors, in technology, in economy, in the cultural and educational sectors, in media, and many more. And so also you, in your workplace, in your sector, you can ask yourself, what would actually be a sustainable and regenerative development or scenario for this industry that I'm working in? How can we shift this entire industry so that it can be sustained for thousands of years? So these are really important and yeah, relevant questions these days as we're standing here at this crossroads. And currently, most media stories, they tell us that we're moving into the left direction, which is probably true. But there is also a possibility of a regenerative future that you can see on the right. And mostly we focus on the left in our stories, in media, as I said. And if you look at the left picture, it kind of makes a little sad. Like when I look at this, I become a bit more heavy. I feel sadness or even anger. And these are the qualities and emotions that help me to act, that help me and motivate me to really get things going. Whereas if we focus on the right, we can access resources in our brain, such as the capacity to resolve problems, such as proactive behavior, cooperation skills. And currently we don't have many stories of that in our media, which is why we wrote this book that I showed you in the beginning. And we developed visions with cities together with multi-stakeholders and places to really think about what kind of future do we want? How do we get there? And then from that vision, calculate backwards. Okay, what was needed to end up there? So here you see, for example, the city of Hamburg and the vision of Hamburg that shows that it's a really regenerated green city with lots of plants and sustainable infrastructure. So we have sustainable materials that incorporate green building practices like passive solar design. That are somehow the Zoom collapsed. Do you hear me now?
Yeah, you seem to be back again.
Okay, cool. um, I hope you were able to follow what I said until it crashed. So as you see, these cities aren't just useful for the environment, but also for people. And there are studies that show that people who are exposed to nature are much more healthy, are more balanced, and that there is less solitude and feelings of being isolated in cities where you actually have the opportunity to engage, for example, in a community garden. So using cities not just as a place to live, but actually to live is what all of this is about, that life becomes more than just going to work, but that we reclaim public spaces for what's needed, what our real needs are. This is the city of Stuttgart. And as you can see here, there's also lots of gardening on the rooftops. You can walk on this pathway, and there's much more public space for people to do arts, to do sports, and to meet and talk. And this is also something that studies show our democracies need. We need places to talk, to debate and meet each other again, instead of sitting in our homes and feeling isolated. Joachim Schellhuber, who's one of the most famous climate researchers globally, said we can build us out of the climate crisis. I don't know if that's a good translation, but basically he said that using sustainable or regenerative building materials such as wood or clay or even popcorn could help us not only reduce harm from the building industry, but actually sequester carbon and fight the climate crisis. Because as we grow the trees and then use them for buildings, we can really bring carbon down and store it longer. So that's a really encouraging scenario. Then we also transformed the city of Vienna. And in this place, we had the vision of a regenerative economy, which encourages companies to do something for the common good through common good balancing and the common good product, so that we shift the incentives and really enable companies to contribute in a city to the common good. In these photos, you see that we worked with a lot of stakeholders. So all of these images were developed co-creatively with lots of people gathering their ideas. And maybe one thing that I want to mention is that it wasn't just about the visions themselves, but about helping people to train their capacity of imagination. It's really a future skill, a very important skill, that we are able to think about different futures. How do we actually want to live? What's possible? And let's think about utopias. And then after opening, we can then diverge and see what's possible and make it a real utopia. So that was our approach. And what we found as results also was that the city of the future is not just smart. We're talking a lot about digital solutions, smart grids, digital twins, and like all of this, we hear this a lot. But the most important is that cities are eco-regenerative, which means that they are made of nature-based solutions instead of big tech. Big tech can support nature, and it's important, of course, that we calculate emissions and that we optimize transport. But the most important is really this regeneration, that we build up the ecosystem, the diversity, the biodiversity in the city, that we have lots of green spaces and lots of water as well, so that the entire water cycle is regenerated and that water can flow naturally again, because now it can't, because everything is sealed. And the third is that cities must be designed with and for people. Times are over where experts provide the perfect drafts how something should be planned. It's now really important that we integrate the stakeholders and make designs with people and for people. And I'm showing you a few more images, such as this one. It's Munich. Here you see that one possible scenario is integrated transportation, where the city provides pedestrian-friendly designs with walkable neighborhoods and bike lanes, and the public transportation systems are efficient and powered by clean energy, and there's also lots of space to just hang out. And this is the city of Zurich. in Switzerland. We also have Frankfurt and many others that are in the book and on the platform that you can access for free. This is a little clip that I really like. It shows the city of London and again, the utopian mindset, which I want to offer to you as one future skill, this capacity of imagining how it could look like, asking oneself, what if we actually used the solutions that are available instead of just focusing on the problems? And one very encouraging thing is that most solutions are already here. We don't need to invent flying taxis or we don't need these new big tech inventions. We have a lot of solutions available and many are already a reality. Like you see here on this photo, the bikeway that you saw in one of the graphics that I showed you in Copenhagen, it is already a reality. Then we have in Freiburg a whole district, a whole quarter that's car-free with autonomous communities that are managing themselves. It's really beautiful. In Germany, where I come from, we have 244 community-supported food co-ops where you can subscribe and get a box that's directly comes from a farm and where there's fair wages. It's very encouraging to see what these people actually are working on every day. Then we have the economy for the common good, which is a kind of alternative concept to the typical capitalist growth-based system that we're in, that enables with common good indicators to measure the social and environmental externalities of company. We have climate positive buildings. We have in Paris an initiative that is called Reinvent Paris, where citizens are encouraged to do gardening works and where there are spaces and people are allowed to actually contribute and meet up and do gardening works. Some of you might know the super blocks in Barcelona. Those are junctions that are car-free, where there's space for arts and sports. And Grätzl-Oasen in Vienna, also they took away parking slots and now it's places to hang out, like little cafes and stuff. And I think the last thing that I want to offer to you is this question of what is innovation? Because you are at this conference and a lot of innovation is presented and we hear so much on artificial intelligence these days, and everything's always about innovation. So what I would like to maybe argue is that innovation is only innovative when it helps societies to reduce their resource use or when it strengthens social cohesion. Everything that doesn't reduce our resource consumption and doesn't help social cohesion and the health of societies is not innovative these days, because it will just contribute to a system that's not sustainable. And something that you might want to ask yourself is also, where's your role in this great transition? How can you contribute to systemic change? How can you help to shift our attention from this left side to the right side, which is regenerative? And one model that helps a little bit as well is that a model of two loops, which shows that we're on this old non-sustainable degenerative path and we need to move on a new regenerative path. And currently we are in this transition phase. We are really in this phase where an old needs to die and where a new system needs to emerge that's based on new paradigms. And every day we can say yes to this challenge. It's a big challenge. And there's lots of barriers and people that are resistant. And it's an inner decision to say yes every day to whatever future you want to create, to whatever future that's in your heart, and to stay connected to that and stay truthful to the future that you want to create. I'm offering also this platform. It's the Infothek für Realutopien. It's in German, but you find a lot of visuals. I think we have 100 utopian visuals that you can download for free. And yeah, thank you very much for your attention. We have to finish like in a minute. You can reach out anytime. This is our website, www.realutopien.de. And I wish you a beautiful conference and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stella, for presenting. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, thank you again for the presentation. Just basic question. Where can we find the slides for the presentation? Do you make them
Probably the
available?
organizers know best.
Sorry?
The organizers know best, I guess. Otherwise, you can
Okay.
send me an email.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Henriette. I don't have so much of a question as just a comment of thank you for this beautiful presentation. I am a student in Bangkok, actually studying international development, so I feel very at home when I listen to your talk, and I find it quite important what you said in the end, how the old has to die, and that we're in this transition phase, because my background is on organic or sustainable agriculture, and I'm trying to understand in Thailand what are the different pathways that people are imagining up on how the future of sustainable agriculture could look like. And you can really see that there is hegemonic thinking of this mass industrialized type of agriculture, even if they call it sustainable. But that word has been used in many different contexts, and how also pushing for a very, very specific type of future thinking really pushes all the other ideas out of the way. And that usually it is in small community-led programs where those little ideas actually pop up again and find root. So it was just wanting to introduce myself as well for that. But thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Is there any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank you for presenting at ETH Prague, Stella, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.